Recently, we posted a video where Jed answered 50 plus art-related questions. You guys really seem to enjoy it, so now we're posting another one, but this time these are the questions that you guys asked Dianna at the end of our second masterclass session. We hope you find these helpful, and happy painting.
So Dianna, Peter, let's let Dianna come up, and you guys, if you have questions, just shout it out in the comments.
And one thing I want to add real quick is on Friday, we'll be talking about the membership and what that's all about and how you can join that. So be sure to check that out.
Lots of great stuff.
Amazing.
All right.
Okay, fun. Hey, Chris Harder, I see you, buddy. It's fun when I see people I know that I haven't seen in a long time, or, you know, so anyways, just saw a comment.
All right,
cool.
So we're going to try and answer these as quickly as possible. Still giving good answers. So somebody said, what brand of paint does Dianna use?
Golden and Winsor Newton Professional. Pretty much those, if I can find the colors. There's been some supply chain issues.
Yeah.
So I go wherever I can find the color I want.
Yeah. Elizabeth Phelps asked, what is glazing?
Oh, glazing. So you've got a painting and it's dry. Then you can mix up some transparent color with white, or not white, sorry, water. Don't put white in it, but water or glazing liquid, and paint right over the painting you just did. And it will change the color, but you can see through it. It's just like glass.
Yeah.
So you can change the color, you can change the value, you can change the temperature with glazing and still see everything underneath. So it's a wonderful tool if you've got a painting you like, you just don't like the color.
Awesome. Susie asks, what was the surface you painted on? It seemed the paint didn't dry quickly.
No, the paint was drying normally. I was painting quickly.
Yeah.
And I paint with, the thicker your paint, the longer the drying time. So I paint pretty thick. The other thing is we're cool. The weather's a little bit cooler here in the Northwest, you know, and my house is, I keep my house kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps the drying time down too. But I was painting on, let me go grab up one of the panels. I'll be right back. And one of those sleeves too. Ah, here we go. I don't know if it's, oh no. I think it's the same thing that Jed uses. There we go, the Da Vinci Ultra Smooth. It's a piece of MDF that's on a board. You can see the wood there. I love these because they're wonderful to paint on. No canvas, you know, grain to interfere with your brush strokes. And they store easily, and then you can sell them just like this. Put a little hanging wire on the back, and they're good to go.
Awesome.
But I love that. I love that surface. And you can also sand them down if you don't like the painting, and gesso over them and go again. So they're not wasted, even if you're experimenting.
They're not one-use things.
Yeah.
Sharon Strite says, my paint beat it up on an acrylic canvas. What's wrong?
The acrylic canvases are often coated for transport with something that keeps them from getting mildew. And you've got to wash those off sometimes or re-gesso them because water won't, you know, get onto them. They pre-coat them for, you know, for transporting. So if you're finding that beating up thing, it's probably that or bad, you know, they put on a cheap gesso. So buy a nice gesso. They have a good tooth that should hold your paint and water onto the surface. So, you know, sometimes I just put it under the sink and scrub them off if there's a beating issue.
Interesting. I never knew that. The more you know.
Right? I mean, some of them are terrible. The paint even peels off. So you have to, I mean, and that is, you know, using inexpensive supplies. Sometimes you want to when you're experimenting, but you really need to understand what the trade-offs are.
Guys, everything you need to know about the homework is on the dashboard. So everything for like submitting it, turning it in, what the instructions are, all on the dashboard for you.
I wanted to show you this. Oops, there it is. It's the clear sleeve. I bought packages of 100 one time, and I use them over and over. I stick my printout, and I can write on this with dry erase markers if I want to make, changes to my thing, and you can paint right on top of them. So, and I think these are just called document covers.
Yeah.
Document covers.
Like
and
binder, they go in a binder or whatever. Yeah.
Up there, these holes. You can put them in a notebook if you like what you did. You can put them in a binder and then take notes and put notes with them, and you can put their reference photos and any notes you have behind them. They're great.
That is cool.
And I'd just like to say that for those of you who had any issues downloading the correct images, for whatever reason, it didn't work the first time I tried, but they are now correct, so you can download them.
Cool. Thanks for that, Jen.
Yeah.
Okay, so yep, that's the plastic sleeve question. How much paint do you mix up for each color? Tablespoon, teaspoon, or more per color?
It depends on how, like if my paint is going to be mostly green, I'll mix up a big pile of generic green that I can draw from to change, then from that big pile of just yellow and blue, and that's probably a tablespoon, then I'll pull off some to make lighter. I'll pull off some to make darker. I'll pull off some to, get browner, but I make a big dollop of those 6 main hues that I talked about. A big dollop of purple, orange, green, red, yellow, blue. The other colors might be small, but especially like the painting behind me is mostly green. So I made a huge pile of green. Not very much purple, so I made a little pile of purple. That's and like Jed, I just scrape when I'm done with my painting. If my colors are all messed up, I just scrape them off, stir them together, and use them as gray for another painting.
How many years of practice did it take you to get to the point where you thought your work was good enough to sell?
Not fair. I'm a slow read. I'm a really slow learner. It took me a long time, but people bought my paintings right away. Back in the early 80s, I was a watercolor painter and I did a lot of portraits, and I sold them right away. But it's a good question. I think putting something into a show means that you have something to show. Means that you have something of yourself that you'd like other people to see. And selling is it's so random. It's just such a strange thing. If you're embarrassed by the painting, don't sell it. Jen and I have had big laughs about seeing some of our early work out there in public and just sort of dying inside. Because it's
absolutely. But it's like you said, it's one of those things that you are where you are and you just go for it. How about Tony Robbins says something like, when is now the best time? Something like that. Like there's a part of you, obviously you will know if you have people see your work and they love it. Like just bless them with it, if somebody loves it and they want to buy it, like sell it to them. Don't be afraid of that.
Don't be afraid of it.
So
people need to see you. I mean, you're important. You're special. You're an individual. You are the only one of you that will ever be on this earth. And the more you can tap into that and paint from, the more special your paintings will be. And that will bless the whole world. I mean, it will bless everybody around you with you. And that painting is like a little battery. It gives you energy to anyone who hangs it on their wall and looks at it every day. It gives them a little blast of you every single day. And it's a beautiful thing. So definitely get your work out there and sell it. It's great.
So guys, some of you had trouble with the like it was coming up with daffodils as the reference photos or whatever. Make sure to refresh your page before you try to download again if you're having trouble with that, and it should work properly.
Refresh your dashboard page every time you go onto it because it changes every day. I change it sometimes multiple times a day because we have new events coming, new things are there. So if you haven't refreshed your page, you just need to do that because it won't be correct if you don't.
Perfect. For homework, do you recommend landscape? How about still life? Either is totally fine.
It's just all about the values, and there's no time limit. I would say faster is better because you can tap into what you're feeling about color instead of what you think ought to be there. Faster for me overrides my internal critic. My internal critic is pretty strong, so I have to paint quick. So I just go with what I'm feeling. I think these two colors would be great. Let me try them. And the critic is just left behind in the dust.
Awesome.
Someone just asked if I used extender, and I do not. I just paint thick and I paint fast. So,
excuse me. What did you use to mix your paint again? It looked like a rubber tip. We had a
that
couple questions about the color shaper. Yeah.
It's called a color shaper. You can just type that in and Google it. It's online, or you can use a dollar store spatula. It doesn't matter, or you can use a palette knife. It's fine. I love the color shaper because it keeps my fingers tips out of the paint.
So I downloaded the daffodils. Is that an okay reference? Yeah, you can use any reference photo as long as you follow the homework instructions on the page.
Right.
And then
just don't paint them yellow. Paint them something else.
Yeah.
Choose a different color combo. So it's not you pushing yourself out of your normal way of thinking.
Absolutely. Where do you find out about signing up for Acrylic University? We're going to talk about that on Friday and open our doors then. So all the info you need to know about that, we will share with you on Friday. Can we see today's demonstration drawing on the dashboard? Yeah, we'll get a picture of Diana's demonstrations on the dashboard for you when we can, for sure.
I actually have them, so I can do that. I'll work on that right now.
Okay.
I see one more question. It says, how do you keep from making mud? That's me when I put my colors into like that color wheel on my palette and I make all 6 of those hues. I keep those hues as clean as possible when I'm mixing. When you have your paint organized in that color wheel, then you will not make mud. You're just making darker and lighter, warmer and cooler extensions off of those 6 main colors. The other thing is use a clean palette paper. If you get muddy, make sure you've got a clean palette paper and clean your brushes and keep those. If you have a too small of a palette, it's going to get muddy because there's not enough room to mix. So mine is what is that thing? 12 by 16 or something, that Stay Wet palette. It's pretty big. I see someone else asked, where do you get the transparent film? I got mine at Dick Blick. They sell it just for that purpose, the film that you can put up to look through out in plein air. And you can also get them at office supply stores. I used to get red report covers. They are clear, and pass them out to all my students because they're just like a clear red page.
Yeah.
So there's lots of places you can get them, but Dick Blick has them.
Awesome. Excuse me. Let's see here. Do you always paint with these stroke types? Did you use that in the painting behind you?
I tend to gravitate to what's easiest on, when I'm painting fast, I gravitate to what strokes are most natural for me. And it started out me being intentional, but I push myself to change that up when I'm not when I'm demonstrating, I'm just going really fast and it's what's natural. But I try in my practice to push myself further so my strokes are more intentional, and I practice that, because I want to be even looser. And so I have to practice that. But when I'm demonstrating, it usually reverts to, what I've practiced the most. And let's see. I think I talked a lot in the chat bar about the Stay Wet palette.
Yes.
And I see a couple more questions about that. And if you go back to YouTube and rewind that chat bar, you'll see that there's lots and lots and lots of me. and I think, lots of me talking about that Stay Wet palette and how to keep it wet.
Yeah, for sure. And We have a link to that in the description below this live stream. So if you don't have yourself a Stay Wet palette, you can definitely grab one. That's the same one that Jed and Dianna use. And yeah.
So here's a question I think is a good one because I've had this problem before. How do you lighten red without it being pink? I add yellow and white, not just white. When you add yellow and white, you make the red like a warm, like orangey, corally red, but it's not just a dark, cool pink.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Dianna.
Yeah.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
How do you switch colors so quickly without mixing color unintentionally and keep them so clean? I wipe and swish with water and it takes much longer, or I need to change brushes.
I do a quick swish and I have a paper towel and I just wipe, but you keep the paint out of the ferrule of your brush by using the tip of your brush. If you scoop the paint up on the tip of your brush and it doesn't soak way up under where the metal and wood connect, it's much easier to keep the brush clean. Otherwise, that dirty paint way up inside leaks down into your other colors and gets all messy. So just make sure you're lifting the paint up with the tip of the brush and it'll come right off when you swish and wipe.
Cool. Thanks, Dianna.
Yeah.
Will anyone be teaching us how to use a palette knife? I don't think we're doing much of that here, but we have more of that inside the membership. We just recently did some stuff with the different artist did stuff with the palette knife, and Dianna does stuff with the palette knife in there too, and it's just incredible. So is this Q&A part of the replay? Yes, you'll be able to watch this whole thing afterwards until next Wednesday at 12:59 or 11:59.
I think members get access to it longer, don't they?
Yes. Members will get access to all of the masterclass replays for it'll just stay in their library.
So I just saw a question about, I'm just trying to find it again. Shoot. Dianna is incredible. Okay, Diana's awesome. Diana's this, that, and what's amazing.
Lots of that.
No, I'm just joking. Oh, somebody had asked me about the Q&A form or the homework form, because the last time it was actually embedded on the dashboard, but now we have just a button. So just click the button. It will take you to the form. The reason for that is because the embedded form was difficult to fill out with a mobile device. Yeah. So click the button for homework.
Janice, what do you think of working on a glass palette?
Some artists do it. I don't like it because the paint dries out, and I like to save every drop of my paint. Oil painters do it, but the oil paint doesn't dry out. And I know there are acrylic painters who love a glass palette. And I think the people in my classes who've had the most luck with that use the slow dry acrylic paint. It doesn't dry as quickly. But I love the Masterson's palette because I can keep those mixtures for, if I prepare the palette and paper well enough, those mixtures stay good for a month. If you don't prepare the palette and paper well, they'll dry out immediately because you're not using them the way you're supposed to. So read the instructions. It comes with instructions. Read them and do that because it'll really help your paint stay wet longer.
Fantastic. Where did you say the info on the Stay Wet palette staying wet is? We have articles on our blog, and also in the description below, you can find the same palette that both of them use. I'll just leave that one up there because it's a recurring question. There's another. Oh, so somebody asked, they live in New Mexico and the Stay Wet palette doesn't keep their paints wet as effectively as yours does. And I was wondering if extender would be helpful for people who live in like drier climates and stuff like that.
Yes. I used to live in a dry climate, and I got one of those little humidifiers for when kids have colds, you put water in them. And I ran that in my studio so that there was just a general overall more humidity in the studio too. And that really helped, just keeping the studio. And it also helped me. I didn't have a breathing problems.
Yeah, and your skin too, I'm sure, all that stuff.
But I think an extender or using slow dry paints if you live in a really, really dry place, keeping your air conditioner on. But I tried to paint with my acrylics in Arizona in the summer, and they were dry from when I picked them up on my brush to when I put them on the canvas.
Wow.
They dried out on the brush, so I had to mist all the way to the canvas because it was 100 degrees out, and it was not a good time for anyone to be outside painting.
That is wild.
Right?
Someone asked, do you use distilled water in your palette?
No. If the paper towel, I use shop towels, and if they start getting icky or smelly, I just lift the palette paper out, put new shop towels down, and put the palette paper back. But I've never had any trouble with molding with the shop towels.
Awesome. And
hey, quickly, the form. Thank you. Somebody mentioned that the button didn't take them to the form. I just fixed that. Now the button does. Refresh your page, and it will take you to the form for homework.
Okay. Tracy, just a minute. I'm seeing Tracy ask how to add dimension to your painting for things that are closer and further. Interesting you asked that. I'm just finishing a big course for Acrylic University that has an entire section on that. But basically rewind this and look at that value section again. So much of it is on values, on that jump between a lot of values and a smaller amount of values and a smaller amount of values going back in space.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Diana's name is Dianna Shyne. That's her last name. Her full name is Shyne.
Shyne.
Okay, is that about it, Peter? Do you see a lot of more questions?
I started a bunch that I still haven't got to, but it's okay.
Oh, really?
Or maybe not. It looks like I got to most of them. We're definitely coming close to the end of our time, though.
Yeah, Brian, there's one more little technical thing. Brian asked about freezing the paint. And don't let your acrylic paints freeze because it ruins the binder and they turn gummy. And they're really hard to paint with. They either turn to cottage cheese or glue because the freezing just messes up the binder so much. So bring them in out of the car if it's freezing outside. Don't put them in the freezer unless you like painting with glue. But yeah, don't let them freeze. If you're painting outdoors in winter, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do.
Good luck.
Good luck. Jed, what would you do painting outside in winter?
Yeah, it is kind of tricky. I remember painting outside in the Canadian Rockies, and it was cold. It was just above freezing, and I thought, oh man, my paints are going to stay wet forever here. But I didn't realize how dry it was, and they were having a hard time.